Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and welcome back to my casual playthrough of Dark Souls. This is episode 18, being recorded on the Friday the 28th of August. And I hope that each and every one of you out there watching this, whenever that happens to be, is having a fantastic day today. We have a number of things on my to-do list. I am hoping that we will get to fight a boss today, because it's been several episodes since we've been able to actually fight a boss, just because we've been doing a lot of things that we have on our to-do list. So as always, this is something that I probably should have pointed out, and I believe I may have pointed it out at some point during this playthrough, but when I was doing the farming run with the Dark Wraiths, something I always do, without fail, and in fact I did mention that when I came back from Blighttown. Excuse me. But something I always do is send that elevator back up. Really good habit to get into. There are certain elevators where it doesn't really make any difference, and of course there are some automatic elevators, so it doesn't matter at all with those ones, but we look really funny carrying the Ulysseal Ivory Catalyst in our left hand and this huge halberd in our right. But seeing as we purchase these things from Dusk, might as well make use of them. And so I don't know if it's, I can't recall the name of the equivalent from Dark Souls 2. Because there is a Dark Souls 2 equivalent to Aural Decoy, but it's called something else. And yeah, the name's not coming to mind right this second. And essentially it's the equivalent of an Alluring Skull. Except I don't know if the spell iteration of the Alluring Skull in this game, I don't know if there's such a significant gap between the spell itself and the Alluring Skulls as there is in Dark Souls 2. Because in Dark Souls 2 it's a pretty substantial gap between the two. That the spell is much better than the Alluring Skull. Almost rolled off the edge there. Not sure why we don't have our fog ring on, but... And to ensure our fast roll... I know I'm really stubborn about ensuring that I'm fast rolling, but... So we're going to switch away from the Crystal Halberd for now. Just because I would like to wear gloves and pants. I looked back on the first episode of the series, or the first couple episodes, earlier this week, and just kind of snickered at how I spent so much of the early parts of this playthrough running around essentially naked. All because of the fast roll. Okay, we are looking for the Sealer set, and I believe it's called the Tin Banishment Catalyst. I have fallen off of this spot many times. Hopefully, today is not going to be one of those occasions. And hopefully I'm also going the right way. I don't remember where that ladder leads, but... Aha! Success. So if that's there, what's in here again? Oh, okay. Okay, so... First let's look at the sorcery. Sorcery of the Red-Robed Yelva, one of the sealers of New Londo. Reduce bleeding and poison buildup, and undo various poisonous effects. One of New Londo's unique healing sorceries. Perhaps she abandoned her sealer duty to take her healing arts back to Blighttown. So it's one of the very few item descriptions that gives a, potential lore explanation rather than lore itself. So that's pretty interesting. And of course, this was all triggered my thinking that we missed this in Upper Blighttown, but this is actually the exit to Blighttown. So we could have still gotten it, but once again, this is one of those spots where the extent to which I decide to do an area is determined by how good or bad my memories are of my first playthrough being there. And that tree branch that we traversed to get over here is one that killed me many a time. So, Mask of the Sealer, Mask of the Sorcerers who flooded New Londo to seal away the Dark Race, and the 4 kings who descended into dark. It symbolizes their resolve to keep the seal shut forever, and their atonement for all who were sacrificed. But 2 of the 3 forsook New Londo upon tiring of their duty. So Ingward's the only one who's left. And this one belongs to... what was her name again? Oh, it was the spell where we saw the name. Yelva. So Yelva left. I'm not sure, or at least I can't recall, whether there's any hint as to the 3rd sealer and what their situation is. But let's look at the catalyst. Catalyst of the banishment sorcerers who flooded New Londo to seal away the Dark Race, and the kings who fell to dark. In contrast to other catalysts, the metal catalyst qualifies as a weapon, as it inflicts physical damage, however small. And let's just make sure, because we only read the mask, so let's make sure there's nothing. No, arbitrary line breaks. Although, yeah, actually, the sealers were once known as healers, and the bright crimson was a symbol of that. Interesting. So they turn from healers to genocidal murderers, essentially. Although, rather than, selecting a specific race of people, they just flooded. Although, I guess, yeah. Oh, shit. Yep. Just like old times. Oh, man. Okay. Let's try that again. Oh, that must be what the ladder's for. Because you can walk slowly in that direction, or in this direction, but not the other way around, it would seem. Okay, we did it. We did it. Oh, get away from me, please. I hate you. I hate your family. I hate your stupid mosquito-ness. I don't know. Okay, now the only question is, how the hell do we get back to where we were? If this is indeed meant to be an exit of sorts. Maybe we jump? Jumping would seem to be the risky option, but the most direct one. What is over here? A dead end. Okay, so jumping it is. Alright, where to though? I guess just right there. Wish me luck, everyone. We did it! Alright. Okay, so I was saying something about the new Londo sealers, but I can't recall precise. Oh yeah, so that they essentially committed genocide against the undead. Because I don't believe we've read it anywhere, but New Londo is supposed to be an undead city. We will have read that somewhere. I don't recall where the item description is from. Although, what I meant to do as well before we unceremoniously plummeted to our deaths was to look at the Dark Hand, of which I put a few of them away, but I missed another one somehow. The Dark Race, incited by Koth, use the power of the Dark Soul to absorb humanity. An art shared by this weapon, which also acts as a special shield. The ancients, particularly, could sap the humanity of even a replete saint in the blink of an eye. So very interesting that once again, we get a not so flattering portrayal of Darkstalker Cath, who it says incited the Dark Race. So even though the Sealers themselves were the ones seemingly to eventually carry out the genocide of the undead in New Londo, it was in fact Cath who incited them to the point where it was deemed necessary to seal them away. Or to kill them, essentially. To commit genocide. To Noah's Ark the entire city. And create those a really sad, state of affairs where you have these ghosts flying around and, going after intruders, but ghosts that are carrying babies, which is, really... What's going on? Okay. His little inverse chin thing was shaking there. That was kind of weird. What do we need to do down here? We need to find Siegmeyer. I'm looking at my notes here. So we got the Crimson set. We need to find Siegmeyer, and then we need to find Quelana. Siegmeyer, as I've said previously, or at least as I ought to have said, I've never completed Siegmeyer's quest. So this is a first for me, figuring some of this out. And we should use our feather arrows, because I believe our bow is at plus 14. So there's no reason not to use it. Also, I'm wondering, since Siegmeyer was at Firelink when we were just there, although we did die after we came down here, so that could possibly have triggered his move. I guess we'll see. If I can't find him, then we know that we may need to quit and reload. But I believe he's around here somewhere. There he is. Beautiful. So in the previous episode I showed the farming route I used for humanity and Titanite chunks. These are some of the slugs that I spent a fair bit of time killing while farming for large shards and green shards, but mostly large shards. And there's a large shard. I could do a quick montage of the farming route I used for that, in the same way I did in the previous episode, if anyone's interested or wants to, you know, see a decent way of farming large shards, and green shards, which, even if you're not using green shards, you can convert them to normal Titanite shards if you, yeah, see, there you go. One of them dropped 5 of them. They drop the green shards, I believe, always in bunches of 5, but yeah, I can do that if anyone's interested. But it's, I'm pretty sure that there are guides out there that do a better job of displaying what it is that you need to do if you really want those things early in the game. You can see it looks almost like Siegmeyer's drunk. He's kind of just swaying back and forth. Do we have our binoculars equipped? Yes, we do. Let's see if we can see his face again. So his eyes are open. So unless he sleeps with his eyes open, he does seem, in fact, to be awake. Although the models don't actually, like, their lips don't move when they're talking. I think Andre is the only one who actually even mimics talking, even though his lips don't move either. But yeah.
Oh ho! Excuse me, I was so absorbed in thought I just drifted away. You see, I'm actually in a bit of a fix. I've made it this far, but I'm short on antidote moss for the trip back. By my knighthood, I'm ashamed to ask, but can you spare a few scraps of moss? Fantastic! Thank you. A saint you are. This knight of Catarina expresses his deepest gratitude. I shall not forget this. Please, take this, a symbol of my appreciation. Well, our fates do seem entwined, don't they? Perhaps this, too, is the will of Lord Gwyn.
So the second to last thing he said, or I guess technically the last thing he said, would seem to suggest that, you know, he's a believer of sorts in the gods. That perhaps this too is the will of Lord Gwyn. And then he laughs. So I don't know if that's supposed to mean he was joking, he was being sarcastic, or whether that's just the standard psychotic laugh that seemingly all of the undead in this game have. But he gave us the Pierce Shield. Shield of certain knights of Catarina, used in attacks with a large protrusion in the center. Can be used as a thrust weapon. So it 95 physical, which isn't bad, but only 49 stability. And we don't get a whole lot of lore, other than it says certain knights of Catarina, which would suggest that Siegmeyer is not just a common knight, that he is not a, you know, high prestige knight, but he's a knight of some noteworthiness. But speaking of stability, I did mention in the previous episode, after we picked up the Crystal Knight Shield, that I wanted to see what the difference was between the plain one and the crystal one. And so you can see right away that, well, first there's the difference in, I guess, the damage. I'm not really sure if that means anything for shields, or if that's just, if you were to use this in your right hand as a weapon, this is how much damage it would do. But the one thing, it doesn't change the damage reduction percentage, but it does give it a fair bit more stability. So the higher this value, the less stamina consumed when taking attacks. So this one has 70, and this one has 56. The only difference between them, except for the attack, but again, if that is indeed meant to measure attack, I at one point thought that that was the amount of damage it could block, but that doesn't make any sense either. because then damage reduction, the percentage of damage reduction wouldn't really mean anything. Because if you got hit for more than 105, then yeah, what point is having 100% shield if it can only block 105 damage? Or in this case, 68 plus 13. So I guess 125 with the scaling. But yeah, just it was something I wondered about, and now we have the answer. I'm not sure if he has anything else to say to us.
The poison swamp. It's like quicksand in there.
Maybe you should try rolling. Or try the one-handed, two-handed trick. How do I explain it to him? Just do this, Siegmeyer, and you're good. Or if I could drop him the rusted iron ring, I would.
The poison.
Okay. Okay, so that's one of two things done down here. Next thing we need to do, and let's just use a homered bone. Unless... Yeah, I did set at the bonfire, I did. Yeah, I saw the frame rate dip as soon as I looked across to where it is that we needed to go. And I was like, yeah, it's probably better just to use the homered bone. So then we can just walk there from the bonfire. And the reason that I'm not bothering with any of the enemies, well, there's two reasons. One is that we are using the Ring of Fog, so they should forget about us after a little while. And second reason is that, for whatever reason, maybe I need to have it equipped? Unless I'm in the wrong place. Oh, that's funny, because I was literally just thinking of the comment I answered in the previous episode. Who was it from? Oh, I erased it from my notes. I apologize to whoever actually left the comment, but the comment about Quelana and how, you know, it's almost seemingly random whether or not she shows up. And then I was over there thinking, wait a second, I have it, but I have a plus 15 flame, which would negate everything I said, that all you need is a plus 10 or greater flame, and that even if an invader has a plus 10 or greater flame, then she'll show up here. Yeah, almost had egg on my face there, but that worked out rather nicely. Hi, Quelana.
A mere undead, yet you can see me. Fascinating. I am Quelana of Izalith. I am not often revealed to walkers of flesh. You have a gift. Are you too one who seeks my pyromancy, like Solomon? Yes, of course. It should be expected. Very well. You shall be my pupil, but to pursue my pyromancy, you must give something up. Are you prepared to do this? Long ago, I accepted another pupil like yourself. Over 200 years ago, there was a man almost as bungling as you. In your world, he was called Solomon, the master pyromancer. The little rascal really made something of himself. Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. Always fear the flame, lest you be devoured by it and lose yourself. I would hate to see that happen again. Pyromancy is the art of invoking and manipulating fire. But remember one thing. I would hate...
She would hate to see that happen again, suggesting that Solomon was consumed by the fire himself. Very interesting. Okay, wow. Okay, we need undead rapport. No doubt about that. And let's get great combustion, I guess. We'll buy all the cheap ones for now. How about that? Fire orb, sure. Great combustion. And we can ascend our pyromancy flame. But yeah, I don't want to spend any more souls in that, so we'll just leave it at that for now. And then after we get our hands, or actually maybe we should, because we're walking around with a lot of souls. So might as well spend them all. Great fireball, sure.
Pyromancy is... I would... Now go. Whatever you do, do not crack and go hollow, lest my time spent on you be wasted.
Alright, so once again we set in motion we've established the conditions under which Laurentius will go hollow. I think these guys fall for Aural Decoy. Yep. It's a really cool spell. I really like it. Okay, but that's enough of that for now. We are still planning on going to the Great Hollow, but just not at this moment. Because again, it's been something like 4 episodes since we fought a boss. So I do want to have, I do want to actually do some fighting in this episode. And this is the next place that we wanted to go either way. That is to Lost Izalith. Because there are a number of things I want to do, but I need to do them in a very specific order. So otherwise I would generally leave Lost Izalith for, not necessarily last, but close to it. Just because it's the one area that, yeah, I just dread the fight against the Bed of Chaos. It's not particularly fun or imaginative, and it can be kind of frustrating. It's essentially a fight against RNG. That is to say, a random number generator. Might as well... No, we don't need to sit there, actually. But that is, even though I do want to fight a boss and I want to do actual fighting, that doesn't mean there's going to be no cheese in this episode. There is certainly going to be cheese, as you will soon see. Actually, do we have... This is one spot where I find myself missing the Dark Souls 2 system of having 3 slots in the left and the right hand. Because I would like to have Flash Sweat. But it would certainly suffice, I think. And if you know what I'm preparing for, that is getting the Chaos Ember. I don't know if we'll make any Chaos weapons, but this is something that if you've ever done a SL1 build, a Soul Level 1 build, I'm sure you've likely had to deal with this at one point or another. And that is taking care of all these Taurus demons and getting the Chaos Ember, because it is the best way to upgrade your weapon at Soul Level 1. Oh, poor egg bearers. You can see that they're trying to... Or at least the parasites in their sacs are trying to infect us. We're not going to fall for that for now, but maybe later. Or maybe one day an episode will start and I will have a enormous, or I guess my face will essentially be a giant egg. Maybe. We'll see. Time for cheese. So once again, note that even though you're not doing damage to them, as long as you actually see the arrow hitting, and as long as the enemy is vulnerable to poison, they will eventually be poisoned. I think it's kind of cute that this one Taurus demon grows concerned about his buddy. Oh, they all kind of do that. Say, hey, what's happening? What's hitting you? I don't know what's going on. I'll take the arrows out, but... Stupid Taurus demons. I can still remember the sheer and utter fear I felt the first time I came down here. And it wasn't even the Taurus demons. It was coming down here and immediately seeing this guy, Capra Demon. And even though, like, it wasn't that the boss fight wasn't really a struggle for me my first time, I was still like, holy, there's a boss here. Why is there a boss here? And then I looked to the left and saw like 8 Taurus demons. And just about wet myself. Okay, we need to hope that we can build up enough flame defense so that we can get the Chaos Ember there. Thankfully, the Taurus demons do not respawn. So, once they're dead, which means if we die here, we don't have to kill all those Taurus demons all over again in order to get the Chaos Ember. Okay, you don't want, if I recall correctly, you don't want to jump here. Jumping may seem like the better idea, but you definitely want to roll instead of jumping. And we have an additional iframe when we use the Darkwood Grain Ring, so provided we don't have a fire defense ring. And if we did, I think I put it in my item box, so let's see if we can do this without dying. beautiful. That was beautiful. Very good, okay. We are back in business. Yeah, I was reasonably certain we were going to die there, but I think the Darkwood Grain Ring made the extra difference there. If it wasn't for that, either we would have died or we would have come rather close to dying. So, yeah, that works out. That is, I believe, just a soul item. And I think I have more than enough soul. Yeah, I got enough soul items. Don't really need any more, so we're going to ignore that because as soon as I saw it, I realized that we probably shouldn't have got changed, but that's going to happen. Of course, the chameleon doesn't actually work on the enemies in this area, or in Dark Souls 1 in general. I believe in Dark Souls 2 it does work. But does Aural Decoy work on him? Oh, it does. Forgot that we're actually supposed to be using the Crystal Halberd. Notwithstanding what I just said, or did I already pick up the soul item? Oh, I did. Pardon me, yeah, you'll have to excuse me. Even though it is only... It's not especially late. I'm usually up much later than this, but for some reason today, I got tired pretty quickly, so... So, we've been invaded by Kirk in the depths, and I believe this is just the second time. Very interesting. We will be speaking about Kirk once we've dispatched him for the final time, so stay tuned for that. Can, of course, just drop down to this bonfire here, except it's being guarded by this incredibly annoying enemy. Who... I'm actually really impressed by the number of enemies who respond to this. So this guy can break all your equipment, though, so you want to be more careful than that. Yep, there's the equipment breakage stuff, and wow, I'm right on the ledge here. Yeah, certainly off my game right now, but that's okay. Because, again, it's a casual playthrough, and at least according to the Fang Boars from the previous episode, I am a dirty casual who needs to get good, so... we might want to kindle this one. Why not, since we farmed so much humanity? As for comments I want to discuss in today's episode, there are a number I want to discuss, but given kind of how sleepy I became all of a sudden in the last, 15 or 20 minutes, I'm not sure if I'm currently in the mental state to really speak to these comments in the way that they deserve. But I will touch on a couple. The first is from Aaron, and I didn't read Aaron's full name in either the previous episode or the one prior to that, and I'll try now. It's Aaron T. Chiavara. I apologize if I brutally mispronounced that in the same way that I did to Leo's name the first time I tried. But yeah, I'm not the greatest at pronouncing names. You'll have to forgive me for that. Maybe it's a lifetime of, comes from a lifetime of people mispronouncing my name. But Aaron, I actually touched on part of this comment in, either the last episode or the one before it. But I did want to touch on another part that I promised I would. And Aaron writes, also, a while ago, when I was still somewhat new to Dark Souls, I did the Lautrec glitch. But I did it from a different position. Maybe you could try it that way. And he also adds, forgive my horrible build, early days. No need to ever apologize to me for that. As we've kind of established at this point, I'm not going to chirp people for being new at the game, to use a phrase that I've heard people saying. But yeah, I am going to leave a link in the description to Aaron successfully, although I think accidentally. I didn't get a confirmation on that, but I think Aaron did it by accident. The exact glitch that I was trying to do to Lautrec, or the exact cheese I was trying to use on Lautrec. And so I will leave a link in the description for everyone to check out and see once again what it was I was trying to accomplish. Even though I tried, 10 or 15 times, I didn't actually, in that montage that opened I believe it was the 14th episode or the 16th episode, whichever one that starts with Lautrec cheese. I didn't include all of my attempts in that little montage I had at the beginning of that episode. That was only a selection of them. I tried a number of other times, but it just couldn't seem to get it working. And my plan was essentially to see if I could do it and then crystal out and try it again. But I never once was able to actually get it working. But Aaron was, accidentally or otherwise. It's pretty hilarious. So you'll find a link in the description for that. Aaron, another part of that comment, and I also received a comment on this from Quixotic Fiction, but I'm saving those two comments, or those two excerpts, for when they're actually relevant, and that is their comments about Solaire. And so that might actually be in the next episode, given where we are. Actually, there was one more. I wanted to read out actually one of my own comments, just on the discussion from the previous episode about Destiny and the problems with Destiny. In terms of the specifics of the issues I had with the game, and of, a much more concise summation of the problem of assigning blame, or disproportionately assigning blame between Activision and Bungie. I wrote this 6 months ago, so around the time when I decided that I wasn't going to be playing Destiny anymore, but at a time when I still thought that there might be a chance for the game, and that, the mechanics of the game for a shooter are brilliant, but the game itself is devoid of content. And so this was a comment made on a podcast, I believe, or the YouTube channel of someone who runs the Destiny the Show podcast named BBK Dragoon. So I put a link in the video description in the previous episode, but I wanted to just read it out because, once again, it's a better way of summarizing the issue of assigning blame than I was able to articulate in the previous episode. So I wrote BBK, so referring to the person whose YouTube channel it was, or is. I was with you until the assertion that Activision, and Activision alone, is responsible for Destiny's pseudo-subscription model, as BBK Dragoon seemed to argue in that video. Recall that Bungie entered willingly into its contract with Activision, a contract of enormous financial significance. To argue that Bungie is the victim of the terms of this contract, that is the pseudo-subscription model, is also to argue that they signed this contract without actually having reviewed said terms. Needless to say, Bungie would not have entered into so significant an agreement without actually understanding what it was they were agreeing to. What's more is that Bungie was, or certainly ought to have been, well aware of Activision's questionable business practices at the time they agreed to the terms of the contract. Bungie knew to some degree what they were getting into. This implies some measure of approval from Bungie, whether tacit or otherwise, for the pseudo-subscription model. In short, it is certainly unreasonable to place Destiny's failings solely at the feet of Bungie, but to absolve them entirely of responsibility for the same is no more accurate, preferable, or productive. In fact, I would argue that getting lost in the Bungie versus Activision narrative distracts us from far more important Destiny-related issues we should be discussing. And that's another huge part of the reason why I decided to stop playing the game, and like I was never active in the Destiny community nearly to the same extent that I have been since I started playing Dark Souls. But, I still spent some time on the Destiny the Game subreddit and, watching YouTube videos and commenting and whatnot. And one of the enormous issues that I had with that was that all of the discussions about the game never actually turned into fruitful discussions. They were just essentially flame wars between, people who would essentially repeat whatever the talking points were that Bungie was currently using at that time, and the people who were trying to criticize the game but weren't necessarily able to articulate their criticisms in a way that could get through to these people. And so ultimately the community didn't seem to me like a very productive place, and I essentially just gave up because there was so much potential for the game. And over there, so much squandered potential, but let's leave it at that. Over there is the large flame ember. Not going to bother getting that because, of course, when you go over there, a whole bunch of rock worms pop out from the ceiling and come after you, and it's even worse and more tedious than it is taking out the Taurus demons is kind of fun. Taking out all of those enemies, not, at least to me, not my idea of fun in a Souls game. This idiot doesn't seem to care that we're pelting him in the face with arrows. And there's going to be another rockworm popping up here. Hey, friend. And I would mess with these guys. I would probably fight them up close, but the fact that they can destroy your equipment means that I settle for cheese. I've been eating a lot of cheese in this playthrough, and dishing out a lot of it too. I don't think they always drop that, but sure, I'll take it. I can convert that into Titanite shards. He's guarding just a soul item, this Capra Demon, but let's grab it anyway. Wow. I don't know if I've ever had that drop from him. I usually ignore all of the Capra Demons who are up here. As you saw, I dropped down, because there's something like 6 or 8 of them up there. And I don't believe they're actually guarding any weapons or items of any significance. This is the way to the shortcut. If you were trying to save Solaire, you would need to go you need to offer, I believe it's 30 humanity to Quelana. And you can see the sunlight maggots down there as well. After you've offered 30 humanity, this shortcut will open up. And you can go in there and kill the sunlight maggot that eventually drives Solaire mad or hollow, depending on how you see it. But we'll talk about that later. Oh, we're not going to do that. As I've said, the sunlight maggot end for Solaire is, according to Miyazaki at least, the happy ending. So we're going to use the Uchigatana for this fight just because the boss is really susceptible to bleed damage. So there's really no reason not to. That was pretty ugly, but I shall take it. So we just get our equipment re-established here. Yeah, definitely rusty after having not done a boss fight in so long. I don't know whether you actually need to open up the shortcut up here, which leads to the Daughter of Chaos bonfire. But I generally do it anyway. Just because, you know, to be safe. And also there's a decent soul item here. Oh, that triple kill. Soul of a Brave Warrior, I think that's 8,000 souls. We are going to need as many consumable souls as possible for when we need to complete Logan's quest line. I remember how much I freaked out when I first got that shortcut. I thought I was going to some new area, and I was like, wow, that is so cool. Just the, you know, how wonderfully everything loops back onto itself. Just masterful from a game design perspective. Do we want to talk to her? Recording is nearing an hour. So, no, I'm gonna call it a night just because I'm tired. I need to start getting my sleeping schedule back in order for when the school year starts. I don't know what time I'm teaching, but I should probably, I know the date, but I don't know what time my classes are scheduled for. So I should probably go and figure that out so that I can start fixing my sleep schedule around that. But that's going to do it for this episode. So thank you very much for joining a very sleepy egg on a Pastora, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.